Christmas Eve, my own son stood up from the dinner table, looked me dead in the eye and said, "Dad, you're no longer part of this family. You need to leave." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just set my fork down, took one long sip of my coffee, and smiled. By New Year's Day, they were the ones packing boxes in the freezing cold while the neighbors watched. And that was only the beginning of my payback. Family should be built on love, not greed. You won't believe the secret I pulled from my desk drawer that night. Stick around till the end, and subscribe if you believe betrayal deserves justice. Name's Richard Bennett. I'm 62, live in a quiet cul-de-sac in Plano, Texas, retired vac business owner, widower for 6 years. I've got one son, Tyler, 34, and for most of his life I worked my tail off so he'd never know what it felt like to grow up broke, like I did. After Linda passed, I sold my company, bought a modest ranch-style house with a paid-off mortgage, and put the rest into a 401k and some rental properties. I thought I was set, a quiet retirement, Sunday barbecues, and maybe spoiling a couple of grandkids someday, but over the last few years, Tyler's been different. Since he met Chelsea, his girlfriend who used to sell designer handbags, at the Galleria Mall, the calls came less, the visits felt rushed. And when they did stop by, it was always for something. "Dad, can you help with the down payment? Dad, can we borrow the truck?" I kept saying yes because, well, that's what dads do, right? You give, you trust, but little things started to itch at me. Like how Chelsea once slipped and mentioned a future remodel on my own house, or the time Tyler accidentally left a printout in my office, a Zillow listing with my exact address and a big red pending written across it. I laughed it off then, but that seed had already been planted. Looking back now, I realize the warning signs were everywhere. I just didn't want to see M. Thanksgiving that year should have been the first red flag waving in my face. I'd cooked the whole spread: turkey, sweet potato casserole, pumpkin pie, the works. Tyler and Chelsea showed up an hour late, breezed right past me, and headed for the kitchen like it was their place. Chelsea wrinkled her nose at my tablecloth and muttered something about needing a more modern vibe. 2 weeks later, Tyler stopped by, without calling first, and said he needed to talk about the future. That's when he slid a folder across my coffee table. Inside, legal paperwork, a quitclaim deed, with my name already crossed out and is written in. Just a formality, he said. "We'll make sure you can still live here as long as you want." I thought it was a bad joke. It WSN, single quotes. After that, things snowballed. My truck, borrowed for a weekend and returned 3 weeks later with a dent the size of a football. My 401k. Tyler talked me into letting him invest some of it into a startup his buddy was running. That buddy's Instagram now shows him vacationing in Maui in December, while my account balance shrank like a puddle in Texas heat. Every favor I did turned into an expectation. If I hesitated, Chelsea would flash that tight little smile and say, "Family helps family, right?" Then came Christmas Eve. I'd invited them over, hoping to mend whatever distance had grown between us. Instead, halfway through dinner, Tyler put down his fork, looked at me across the table, and said, loud enough for Chelsea to smirk, "Dad, you're no longer part of this family. You've made it clear you don't want to help us, so we're moving on without you." The room went silent except for the clink of my coffee spoon. My heart pounded in my ears. I'd spent decades building a life for this kid, and in 30 seconds he'd cut me out like last week's coupons. But here's the thing about me, I don't yell, I don't throw things. I wait, and I collect every little detail they think I've missed. 2 days after Christmas, I drove to the bank to pull some cash for groceries. The teller, a kid I'd known since he was in Little League, greeted me with, "Hey, Mr. Walker, saw your name on that foreclosure notice. Everything okay?" Foreclosure notice. I didn't own a mortgage. My house had been paid off since 2004, but apparently someone had taken out a home equity loan against it in my name. The signature? A sloppy imitation of mine? The co-borrower? Tyler Walker. I didn't make a scene. I smiled, thanked the teller, and drove home. On the way, I stopped by Gus's diner for coffee. Gus has run that place for 40 years, the kind of man who knows everyone's business without even trying. When I mentioned the loan, he leaned in and said, "You might want to check with your old union lawyer. You still got friends in the hall, right?" That's the thing Tyler never understood. Before I retired, I wasn't just some guy pushing paper. I'd been treasurer of the state electricians union for 20 years. I knew contracts, I knew audits, and I knew how to follow a money trail until it squealed. That night, I pulled out an old lockbox from under my bed. Inside was a neatly organized stack of records, deeds, tax returns, union bylaws, and most importantly, the notarized copy of my house title. I also had something Tyler didn't know existed, a signed beneficiary change form from 3 years ago. Removing him from my life insurance policy, I didn't call him, I didn't warn him. I just poured myself a bourbon, sat back, and started writing down dates, names, and every favor that had gone missing from my house. This wasn't going to be a shouting match. This was going to be an audit, and Tyler was about to fail it spectacularly. People in Cedar Falls know me as the quiet old guy who lives in the Blue Craftsman house on Maple Street, always mowing his own lawn and fixing his own gutters. But 25 years ago, I was running the biggest electricians union in the state, Local 319. We didn't just wire buildings. We wired entire city projects. Hospitals, airports, sports arenas. If it had lights in it, chances are my guys put them there. Being treasurer wasn't just balancing checkbooks. It was knowing where every penny went, making sure nobody skimmed off the top, and making damn sure contracts were airtight. You make enemies in that job. Developers who want to cut corners, politicians looking for donations, even your own members sometimes when they think you're standing in the way of easy money. I outlasted them all because I kept receipts. Literally, the funny thing is, I didn't plan to retire when I did. My wife, Helen, got sick in 2007, breast cancer. We fought it hard, but the treatments were brutal, and by the time she passed, in 2010, I didn't care about meetings or budgets anymore. I sold our vacation cabin, cashed out part of my 401k, and spent the next few years just existing. Tyler was in his early 20s then, newly married, and I thought maybe helping him get on his feet would fill that hole in my life. I paid off his student loans, helped with the down payment on his house, even co-signed a small business loan for some landscaping company he swore was going to take off. It didn't. He defaulted, and I covered it because I didn't want my credit wrecked. Back then I told myself he was just young and unlucky. I didn't see it for what it was, the start of a pattern. After Helen's funeral, I downsized my life, sold her car, donated her clothes, started cooking for one. Tyler and his wife started coming around less and less, unless they needed something. One summer, I noticed my old Craftsman toolbox missing from the garage. When I asked, Tyler laughed it off, said he'd borrowed it for a week. I never saw it again. I kept letting it slide because, and this is where I screwed up, I thought blood meant loyalty. In the union, loyalty was earned. In families, you think it's automatic. Turns out, that's a dangerous assumption. The breaking point wasn't even the foreclosure notice. It was what happened 6 months earlier in June. I'd gone to the hospital for a minor surgery, routine hernia repair. While I was under, Tyler apparently helped by organizing my desk at home. When I got back, the lockbox with my insurance documents and a few bearer bonds was gone. He claimed he moved it for safekeeping, but somehow the bonds were missing. That's when I moved the remaining important documents into a safety deposit box at the bank and changed the beneficiary on my life insurance from him to my niece in Arizona, quietly, no confrontation. Just a silent audit. You might wonder why I didn't confront him right then. Simple. In the union, you don't tip your hand until you've got everything lined up. You wait until the other guy's convinced you're asleep at the wheel. Then you pull the rug out from under him. And while Tyler thought I was just some lonely old man clinging to his memories, I was actually rebuilding my network. The same guys I'd fought alongside in strikes and contract negotiations, they still owed me favors. My old lawyer, Ed Pearson, the one who helped me negotiate a $5 million hospital contract in '98, still had an active license and an office 2 blocks from the courthouse. My neighbor, Lisa, was a notary public. My old apprentice, now a detective with the county sheriff's office, still called me boss. When Ed and I sat down over coffee a month before Christmas, I laid everything out, the missing bonds, the suspicious loan, the forged signature. He didn't even flinch. "You've got him cold," he said. "We can unwind that loan, press charges, and, if you want, sue him for damages." I told him I wanted all of it, but timing was everything. If I played it too soon, Tyler, would hide assets or spin the family against me. But if I waited, Christmas was perfect, public, memorable, the kind of setting where words stick like burrs. If he wanted to declare me no longer family in front of everyone, I'd make sure that sentence aged like milk for him. So I spent December quietly pulling certified copies of everything, the house deed, the insurance change, the bank statements, showing the missing bonds. I even had a private investigator, another old union contact, snap photos of Tyler meeting with a known loan shark downtown, every breadcrumb in place, every document notarized. No leaks stopped by the time Christmas. Dinner rolled around. I wasn't just an old man at a table full of judgment. I was a loaded trap, smiling, nodding, letting him walk right into the snare. He thought he'd won when he spat those words, "You're no longer family." But what he didn't know was that I was already in the process of taking back everything. He'd stolen legally, surgically, and in a way that would leave him with nothing to say except "Your Honor." I didn't say a word when Tyler told me to get out that Christmas night. I just pushed back my chair, stood up slow, knees popping like popcorn, and walked toward the foyer. You could feel the smug radiating off him. Emily had that smirk, the one she wears when she thinks she's 2 steps ahead of everyone. I stopped at the doorway, turned back, and said, "You know, son, you really should have waited until January to pull this little stunt." That's when I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the thick manila folder. You could see his eyes flicker. He recognized it, my old union paperwork folder I supposedly kept just for nostalgia. I laid it on the dining table, right between the honey-glazed ham and Emily's green bean casserole. "What's this?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Oh, just a little Christmas gift," I said, sliding it toward him. "Go ahead, open it, let the family see." He didn't move, so I opened it for him. First page, a notarized statement from my bank confirming the withdrawal of the bearer bonds. The week I was in surgery, complete with time-stamped security footage of him accessing the lockbox. Murmurs around the table started immediately. Next page, the forged signature on that landscaping loan he defaulted on. Right beside it, a letter from the bank stating I had been removed as cosigner after proving the fraud. "Illegal, by the way," I said lightly, sipping my coffee. "Could carry up to 5 years if I wanted to push it." Tyler's jaw tightened. Emily started whispering in his ear, but I kept going. "Certified copy of my new will, with him officially disinherited. Deed transfer on my house to a living trust. In my name only. Photos from the private investigator of him meeting with that loan shark behind the bowling alley on Jefferson Street. By now, my niece from Arizona was straight up recording with her phone. "This is gold," she whispered. Aunt May, bless her, was shaking her head like she'd just seen the devil himself. The room was so quiet you could hear the furnace kick on. "You've been busy," Tyler said finally, his voice low. "Busier than you?" I shot back. "You were playing checkers, son." "I've been playing chess since before you were born." Then I reached into the folder one last time and pulled out the eviction notice, legal, stamped by the court that morning. "Effective in 30 days, you and Emily are no longer authorized to reside at 214 Maple, the mortgage. Paid off. By me, which means the house is mine. You didn't think I was stupid enough to put your name on the deed, did you?" That hit him like a gut punch. "You can't do this," he hissed. "Watch me," I said, sliding the notice across the table. "I learned a long time ago, in the union, in life, you never let a thief keep the keys." Emily finally exploded. "You're ruining this family," she shouted. I looked her dead in the eye. "Sweetheart, the moment you started encouraging my son to steal from me, you ruined it yourself." Tyler's face was pale now, beads of sweat on his forehead. So what, you're just gonna throw your own son out in the cold? He said. I shrugged. It's December in Iowa. The shelters are open. Or maybe you could call that loan shark. I hear he's real generous this time of year. Laughter, actual laughter, broke out from the far end of the table. My cousin Rob couldn't help himself. That cracked whatever thin layer of dignity Tyler had left. He shoved his chair back, grabbed his coat, and stormed toward the door. Emily followed, muttering curses under her breath. The front door slammed so hard a snow globe on the mantel tipped over. I sat back down, poured myself another cup of coffee, and let the silence sit. That's the thing about moments like these. You don't rush them. You let people absorb the truth, watch it settle into their bones. Finally, Aunt May broke the quiet. Richard, you just pulled off the cleanest takedown I've ever seen. I smiled. Years of practice, May, years of practice. I could have left it at that. But there was one more card to play, one more point to make. I want everyone here to remember something, I said, my voice steady. Family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty. And loyalty without respect is just a leash. I cut that leash tonight. There were nods, some teary eyes, and maybe, just maybe, a little more understanding of why I'd kept quiet all these years. You don't get justice by shouting the loudest. You get it by having the right evidence, the right timing, and the guts to drop it when it'll hit hardest. I didn't celebrate that night. No champagne, no victory lap. I washed my mug, folded up the now empty folder, and took it back to my coat pocket. The job wasn't over. Eviction papers are one thing. Follow-through is another. But as I stepped out into the cold, watching my breath cloud in the porch light, I knew the tide had turned. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one on defense. I was calling the plays. 3 weeks after that Christmas dinner, I stood in my driveway watching the moving truck back away from the house. Tyler and Emily were inside, shoving the last of their boxes into the cab of his beat-up Ford. No goodbye, no eye contact. Just, the scraping sound of a cardboard box across the porch and the hollow slam of the truck's door. The sheriff's deputy, a polite guy named Harris, nodded to me. All legal. They've got no claim left. He handed me the signed confirmation. And with it, the last shred of their grip on my life was gone. It should have felt triumphant. And in a way, it did, but it also felt like I'd just closed the book on something that was never supposed to end this way. Parents don't dream about evicting their kids. But then again, kids aren't supposed to steal from the people who raised them. I locked the front door, my door, and for the first time in years, the place felt safe. No more whispered arguments about mortgage payments I didn't owe. No more disappearing heirlooms. No more finding out from the mailman that my own property taxes were overdue. Because someone had tried to reroute the bill, the following Monday, I met with my lawyer, Grace Walters, to finalize the trust. Every asset, every bank account, every bit of property was locked tighter than a steel drum. You've got full control now, she said. If Tyler tries anything in the future, he won't get far. She slid the documents across the table, and I signed them without hesitation. I also made a decision, one that Grace didn't see coming. I want a clause added, I told her. If Tyler ever turns his life around, and I mean proof, not promises, I'll set aside a small fund for him. Nothing life-changing, but enough to show I didn't shut the door completely. She gave me a look like she couldn't decide if I was a saint or a fool. Your call, Richard. But that's unusual. I just shrugged. So's life. Friday night, I sat in my recliner with a whiskey neat, looking out at the snow piling up on the maple tree in the front yard. My phone buzzed a text from my niece. It was a short video she'd taken of Christmas night. Right at the moment I dropped the eviction notice on the table. The audio was crisp, me saying, "You were playing checkers, son?" "I've been playing chess since before you were born," I chuckled. I didn't send it to anyone. Sometimes your best victories are the ones you keep in your back pocket. A week later, I started volunteering at the local food pantry. Nothing big, just unloading trucks, stocking shelves. But I needed to put my energy somewhere other than replaying old arguments in my head. And every so often I'd see a young guy come in, down on his luck, and wonder if maybe with the right choices, Tyler could have been one of the ones turning his life around instead of burning it down. I never heard from him or Emily again. Rumor had it they moved 2 towns over, renting a small place and working odd jobs. That was their road to walk, not mine to pave. One cold February morning, I sat down and wrote a letter. Not to send, just to write. "Tyler," it began. "I hope someday you understand why I did what I did. I hope you learn that loyalty is worth more than money, and that trust, once broken, is the hardest thing in the world to earn back." I folded it up, put it in the bottom drawer of my desk, and locked it. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a locked door, a balanced checkbook, and the peace of knowing you're no longer someone's victim. I wasn't looking for applause. I was looking for freedom. And on that quiet winter morning, coffee steaming in my hands, I realized I finally had it. At the end of it all, I learned something I wish I'd understood sooner. You can love someone deeply and still have to walk away from them. In America, we're taught that family is everything, but what they don't tell you is that family isn't defined by blood alone. It's defined by trust, respect, and the willingness to show up for each other when it counts. Tyler was my son by birth, but somewhere along the way, he stopped being my family in the ways that truly matter. The hardest part wasn't evicting him from my house. It was evicting him from the place he held in my heart. And that's the part no lawyer can prepare you for. There's a cultural truth here, one that's not easy to swallow. In the United States, independence is both a privilege and a responsibility. We pride ourselves on standing on our own 2 feet, on working for what we have. And yet, there's a strange guilt that comes with cutting ties with someone who abuses your generosity, as if setting boundaries makes you cold. But boundaries aren't walls to keep love out. They're fences to keep respect in. This whole ordeal forced me to take inventory, not just of my finances, but of my values. I realized I'd been teaching Tyler the wrong lesson by constantly bailing him out. I thought I was protecting him from hardship, but in truth, I was protecting him from consequences. And that's not love, that's enabling. And here's the uncomfortable reality: toxic relationships don't always come from strangers or coworkers. Sometimes they sit across from you at Christmas dinner, smiling as they calculate how to take what's yours. Walking away from them doesn't mean you're heartless. It means you're finally valuing yourself enough to stop being collateral. Damage in someone else's bad decisions. I also learned the power of documentation, preparation, and knowing your legal rights. In a country where property and inheritance can tear families apart, the ones who protect themselves are the ones who stay standing. Love is emotional, but justice is practical, and you need both if you want to survive a betrayal. Most importantly, I learned that forgiveness doesn't have to mean reconciliation. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. It's the quiet choice to stop letting their actions rent space in your head. Tyler may never say, "I'm sorry," and I may never hear from him again. But I can live my life without bitterness weighing me down, and that's worth more than any hollow apology. In the end, I don't regret taking my life back. I regret waiting so long to do it. Because if you don't draw the line, someone else will keep crossing it, and each time, they'll erase a little more of who you are. So here's my mic drop moment, the line I'd TCH in stone if I could. Blood may run thicker than water, but respect runs thicker than both. And once it's gone, you've got nothing left but the mess they made.